A week after a protest in Sackets Harbor and 2 weeks after the Fed farm visit in the town of Hounsfield where a criminal and some immigrants were taken away, Tom Homan with us here at the 7 News Digital News Desk to talk more about the aftermath of that. And in his words, he wants to clear up some misconceptions and have the facts out there. These are the words of Tom Homan. So good to see you. Thanks
good to see you, Joe.
Coming in. Why is this important for you? Let's start there. There's a lot of information that you want to have corrected in your mind, but why are you doing this? Why is it important?
You more than anybody knows what I feel about this town. This North Country is my home. I mean, I became the ICE director. You got the first interview. Beyond all the other national syndicates, you got the first interview because I owed it to the community that. You know, it takes a village to grow a kid, and this North Country grew me, right? I don't think there was a mother in West Carthage, New York, who didn't spank me at one time or another. So I love the North Country. I was born here. I was raised here. I went to college here. Was with a police officer here. I'm going to retire here. I love the North Country. So I came up here, you know, after all of the controversy, after all the misinformation, I feel the community's been divided. A lot of it on misinformation. So I made an effort to come up here today to make sure the folks in the North Country have the facts. And they can have whatever opinion they want after that, but I want them to base their opinion on facts. And hopefully when I leave, the community will get together again and the community will heal. Immigration enforcement is always emotional, it's always controversial. It has been since 1984 when I was a Border Patrol agent. But facts matter. So I want the community to know, here's the facts, and hopefully this community get back to the great community I know it is.
One of them that I think that you want to clear up or talk about is when it all happened at the farm, people were up in arms saying that everybody was put in handcuffs, including the third grader.
No, it's not. When they serve a warrant, a criminal warrant, it's a criminal search warrant. When I've done it myself, when you serve that warrant, you have to keep everybody. You got to restrain everybody until you find out who they are. But no third grader was ever handcuffed. That's ridiculous. It's against policy. I mean, even if it's a criminal controlled operation, a criminal search warrant, no one's going to handcuff a third grader. That's ridiculous. And I want to make one thing, because one of the misinformation, some of the misinformation I see out there is officers going door to door looking for illegal aliens. False. The home where that family was found was entered under the criminal search warrant. Full authority under that search warrant gave them an area to search. That home was in that area. So the search of that home was legal. It was done on the basis of a criminal search warrant issued by a federal criminal judge. So the officers went in that home, as they should have, based on the search warrant where they found this family. Another misinformation that I see out there a lot, and I'm not going to, I don't do Facebook, never have, but, there's some fake accounts that, of mine, just like there's fake accounts on X, but I don't do Facebook, so I'm getting this information from people up here send me this information. Another piece of misinformation sent out, I think, by the school principal, that this family's been here 15 years. No, they've been here since less than 2 years. Also that, when I made an original statement to you, the principal came out and says, Homan's twisting the story. I told you they'd get a health review. They'd get talked to by a victim witness coordinator, and they would be talked to by the case agent, interviewed, and see if they can provide any information either toward the criminal conviction or if they're victims of this sick individual we took off the streets. Social media went out and says Homan's lying. Homan's twisting the story. No interviews happen. No health interviews happen. So I'm going, since they put it in public forum, let me put it in public forum. First of all, the family entered first time in June of 2022 under the Biden administration, illegally across the United States border. They re-entered August 15, 2023 through the Texas border under the Biden administration. So they got less than 2 years here. On March 27th, they were arrested on the farm, per the criminal search warrant. They were booked into a family residential center in Texas. Why Texas? That's the only family residential center we have right now. We had one in Pennsylvania at the time, but it's closed. So they had to go to a family residential center, not a jail, not a prison, family residential center. On April 1st, they had their health screenings. On April 2nd, They had a mental health review, but they refused to cooperate that review. On April 4th, they were interviewed by the Homeland Security Special Agent. Not only by the case agent, they're also interviewed by the forensic interview specialist on that date. And they were released April 6th. So despite the misinformation on social media, exactly what I told you would happen, happened, because that's how these investigations are conducted.
And why is that important? Because again, it was that the family, potentially witnesses, potentially victims, potentially, right? And that's why those things happened. Right. And that's why it's important. You're putting out the calendar here to show that that stuff happened, because the principal said in her letter that they were in contact with the family and that they weren't being medically evaluated.
Well, either she's being lied to or she's lying. So I just gave you the facts. There's documents of this. There's photographs. There's recordings. What I told you in the beginning was a fact, and that's what kind of angers me. You know, you think an educator, you know, would want to face the facts. She never called me and asked for facts. 2 people in the North Country called and wanted the facts. You and Scott Gray. Now, Scott Gray's being attacked for even being involved. Scott Gray was responsible enough to call me and said, Tom, there's an issue in Sackets Harbor. Are you familiar with it? I said, no. I mean, I didn't know the operation occurred. I didn't order detention. I didn't order release. So Scott Gray called me, wanted the information, so I gave it to Scott Gray. And I hear he's being beat up. I mean, I never got contacted by anybody in the school board, school principal. You got a Democratic chairman in Watertown. I don't remember his name, who fired up the protest. I don't know his name, which shows how insignificant he is to me. But I think he used his family as a political pawn to make a statement. But no one called me for the facts other than you and Scott Gray. So, you know, I think that misinformation feeds a lot of hate. And then I read the Washington Post that, you know, everybody's taking a bow and congratulating themselves that the protests at my summer home resulted in the release. No, it didn't. You and I talked about this in our first interview. I said the release will be made by the independent decision of the criminal investigators based on the results of their interviews. Now, I was notified, release the family before the date of protest, and the protest be canceled. Well, did I do that? No, the protest had no influence on me whatsoever. I was not going to make the decision over a case agent who's been investigating this case for months. Now, what the community doesn't know, they should be blessed not to know, are the details of this investigation. I've seen the results. I know the results of the undercover operation that occurred before the warrant. I'm aware of what digital evidence was seized from this sick individual.
And just to remind people, it's a criminal child porn investigation.
Child predator, child porn, manufacture, and distribution. Another reason, I don't want to get too deep into this, but we need to make sure that those children and that family, their images don't appear in any of this sick material. Protect them. So look, again, these agents, Border Patrol and ICE, did exactly what they should have done. This is the way these investigations do it. These men and women professionals, and to attack these men and women is ridiculous. They're mothers and fathers too. If you think that Border Patrol agents, ICE agents, pull their heart out, hang on the wall before they go to work, is ridiculous. And you know, and you want to protest me. Have at it. But from day one, I said this is going to be based on the outcome of the investigation, and ICE, the case agent, will decide when or if they shall be released. But let's get the facts straight. They entered the country illegally less than 2 years ago. Millions of people entered the country illegally under Joe Biden, and they'll have an immigration day. Another misinformation was they're being detained to expedited removal. The principal said that. They're going to be expedited removal. The Democratic chairman here said they're being held for removal. They don't have a final order. They can't remove unless a judge gives a final order. They're in the immigration proceedings. But ICE has the authority to take them into custody anytime they want. They didn't choose to take them into custody of immigration issues, which they could have. They took them in custody in furtherance of this criminal investigation and make sure they weren't victimized. And that is the facts of the story. Now, if an immigration judge someday is going to order them removed, well, guess what? They're going to be removed by the order of a federal judge. But right now, they're in proceedings. And they're following through their proceedings. And look, let me say this. I admire the principal's caring for her students. That's admirable. But facts matter. And I think the misinformation pushed out by several people up here caused a rift in the community that didn't need to be. If you want to protest Tom Homan, because I work with President Trump and I enforce immigration law, then protest. But protest based on the facts. But the protest had nothing to do with any actions in this case. The family was released several days after the protest, after the case agent and the forensic interviewer interviewed them and said, okay, we got the information we need, we can release them. The intent was never to detain these people forever. So that are the facts of the case.
Is it that it was said that the family had been here 15 years, but if you define the family, it might have been the father? Because the father is still local, right? And maybe he had been here that long and the family came after?
The father's hard to nail down because, there's been several illegal entries, but many under different names and different aliases. But as far as our records are concerned, he's been in the country illegally for a while. Mm-hmm. But I want to make the record straight that this family has not been here as long as people are claiming they've been here. They entered illegally in 22 and again in 2023. And let me just say this, for those that want to say, well, Homan's attacking family. No, I'm just giving you the facts. You put it in public forum, I'll put it in public forum. But I'll say this. There are millions of people in this world who want to come to the greatest nation on earth. They're taking their tests. They're paying their fees. They're doing the background investigation. They're going through the vetting to do things the legal way. The millions of people that Joe Biden released in this country, entered the country illegally, cheated the system. There's a right way and wrong way to come to this country. So, I'm a law enforcement officer, and people don't understand that there's a lot of terrible things happening on that border. A lot of tragedy. Women and children are sexually assaulted. Under Joe Biden, 4,000 illegal aliens died making that journey. I'm a law enforcement officer, been with, starting the border until 1984. If people knew what I knew, what happens at the border, they'd understand why we got to secure the border. My job, and look, and for those who want to point the finger at me, point your finger at me. I'll take the hate. If I can defend the men and women ICE and take the hate, I'll take the hate. But hundreds of criminal investigations are conducted every week across this country. Hundreds of criminal search warrants and arrest warrants are executed. ICE and Border Patrol arrest thousands of people a week. I'm not aware of every arrest by far or every criminal search warrant. I'm the border czar. I work at the White House. My job talks about strategies to secure the border, strategies about doing this deportation operation. Look for the worst first. The facts show the majority of people ICE arrests in the interior United States are criminals, public safety threats, national security threats. The data proves it. I think we've been very successful. Border crossings are down 95%. We did in several weeks what Joe Biden administration couldn't do in 4 years. Couldn't or wouldn't. ICE has arrested just short of 60,000 illegal aliens in this country. Vast majority public safety threats, national security threats. The third rail that I'm overseeing from the White House is finding over 300,000 children that were released in this country by the Biden administration to unsponsored, unvetted sponsors. Those kids are missing. President Trump wants to find these children. Some are going to be in forced labor. Some are going to be forced trafficking. I have a big job. I'm a busy guy. I think we've been in power now 100 days. I think I've had 3 days off. I'm not familiar with every case, but when Scott Gray called me about Sackets Harbor, I told my staff, let's get the facts. Get the hold of the Border Patrol, get hold of ICE, let's get the facts. And you and I talked about the facts on our first interview. However, all that got changed through social media that Tom Homan's a liar and Tom Homan's not telling the truth. And it's unfortunate that people didn't call me for the facts. And as far as the Democratic chairman here, he used his family as a political pawn. Because attacking this administration, all it was a political ploy. And it's a shame, because this was a serious criminal investigation. I think the men and women of ICE, the men and women of the Border Patrol made good decisions based on the facts of the case that no one else knows. And I can't tell you everything in that criminal investigation. The results of the undercover operation that was conducted and the images, the disgusting images that were child porn that were seized. But if people knew what I knew, they'd understand why the men and women at ICE and Border Patrol did what they did.
And even if you take immigration out of it and you have this case against the person that was taken, just as a police officer, it upsets anyone that wants to uphold the law, right? I mean, you know some of the facts of that, and that was in the North Country. I mean, that you take anybody that lived around it, outside of it. You still have a family, or you still have a community around this individual who was living within, the Sackets Harbor area.
It's amazing. They're protesting my vacant lake house that I spend maybe 3 weekends of summer. Actually, I'm busy. I'm working, but I'm shocked at why no protests at the farm? Why no protests at the person who employed a child predator, child porn distributor that was across the street from Old McDonald's farm, where thousands of children, go every year. I've been to that farm. It's a great place. I've been there with, nieces and nephews and children, and it's a great place. But, there's a lot more to the story than what's being attacked. That's why I think that you can focus on me, I'll take it. If people around this country hate me, well, here's what people need to understand. I don't care. I don't care what people think about me. If they wore my shoes for the 39 years, if they wore my shoes that I've worn since 1984 and talked to girls as young as 9 years old that were raped multiple times by criminal cartel, their lives would never be the same. Stay in the back of a tractor trailer and 19 dead people at your feet that baked to death. See the tragedy and the death and horror on that border that I've seen in decades. They may not like me, they don't understand me. So look, everything was done by the numbers. I believe. Again, I wasn't there, found out about 2 days later, but I think the men and women of ICE and Border Patrol did the right thing. They can protest me as much as you want. You can attack me as much as you want. I don't care what people think about me because I know I'm doing the right thing. I know I'm saving lives. I know the men and women of the Border Patrol, while you and I are sleeping tonight at 2 a.m. in our beds, there's Border Patrol agents patrolling the northern border, protecting this country. There's ICE agents doing surveillance across this country to arrest significant public safety threats and national security threats and child pornographers. What happened on that farm was a criminal child pornography, child predator investigation, and unfortunately this family got wrapped up because they lived yards from this person, and through the execution of the search warrant were found, and that's how this whole thing started.
Do you know if the owner of the farm knew anything about this?
No, I don't. I haven't dealt.
Likely,
if I drilled into every aspect of this investigation, I'd be tied up for a long time. I know the agent spent months on this investigation. Again, I'm busy. I got a lot going on. I think you want to make this. If anybody here in Watertown, you Democrat Party, want to make this a political fight, well, here's a political fight. We did in 3 weeks what Biden didn't do in 4 years. Right now, as you and I are talking, right now, we have the most secure border in the history of this nation, and the data proves it. And when you secure that southern border at the record we have right now, down 95%, how many Americans aren't dying from fentanyl coming across an open border that Biden had? How many women and children aren't being sex trafficked across that open border? Now we got a border secure. How many known suspected terrorists people in Washington are not coming across that border because it's secure? How many billions of dollars is the cartels not making because that border is secure? President Trump's policies, this administration is saving lives every day. The men and women Border Patrol save thousands of lives every year. This administration is doing the right thing for the American people, securing the border, removing the worst first criminal aliens, and looking for 300,000 missing children that the last administration released to unvetted sponsors. We're going to save those children too. So you can make this political attack all you want. I'm proud of the work of this administration. I'm proud of the work that the folks that work for me are doing. And I told the men and women of the Border Patrol the day I've retired twice now, I'll come out of retirement twice for this president. I'll always have their six and always support them what they do. So that's why when Scott Gray and you called me, I got into the weeds on this case a little bit to make sure everything was done right and make sure this family's taken care of. End of story. And I'll add one more thing before the end of the interview. People chose to dox my homes.
What's that mean? So if people don't know.
Get on the internet telling people where I live. Even though homes made under LLC, it's not really public information. So people want to dox my homes in Virginia and my homes here. There is a criminal investigation been opened. They are being criminally investigated. If the evidence supports it, it'll be criminally prosecuted.
Locally, we're talking up here.
I won't share the way they can.
Okay.
But if you want to dox my homes, the only reason to do that is say, oh, here's where Homan lives now, and here's the house Homan's buying, and put that out there, that puts my family at risk. Puts me at, look, here's what people need to understand. Ever since I come back to the administration, I got numerous death threats from people who just don't like me and from criminal cartels. That's all. Right after the Republican National Convention, I gave a speech that criminal cartels would be wiped off the face of the earth. Immediately, the criminal cartels in Mexico put threats on my life. Kill me. Putting stuff like that on social media, where Sackets Harbor Home wasn't even on the map from all these criminal groups, Here's what the protest did. Didn't influence my decisions. It didn't result in the release of this family unit, because I said that the release happened 2 days after the protest, because the ICE investigators released them. The protest at any meeting, I would have ordered the release before the protest and prevented the whole protest. The protest meant nothing as far as the results of this family being released. But here's what it did do. It put information out on the internet that now criminal cartels in Mexico are aware of my homes up here. Terrorist organizations, Tren de Agua, MS-13, who were targeting across the country, taking those people off the streets, they're aware. So I can take it. I can take the hate. I can take the threats. But to put my family in that situation is uncalled for. But we'll deal with it. And not only we deal with, I got a great security detail. I got Virginia State Police around my house 24/7. I got a great security team, men and women that are willing to take care, protect me 24/7. But one more thing needs to be done: the doxers will be held responsible.
When it came to the decision of releasing the family, did you have much influence in that? Was it Tom Homan said yes, or did you leave it up to the agents, right?
From the day one when I told you the release of the family, if and when they're released, would be based on the outcome of the investigation. ICE made that determination on their own.
This has opened up the conversation again about workers on the farm. And you and I have talked about in the past of your support for some sort of a program which would allow for easier employment of migrants, immigrants in the country to be working on farms. Where is that?
Yeah, when I was the ICE director, we talked about this several years ago. When I was ICE director, I actually went on the Hill and said, look, I grew up in dairy country. There's a legal process, H-2A agricultural process, where foreign nationals get a visa, come to the United States to pick crops, grapes, tomatoes, whatever it is. And they can come work for the season, get paid, then they go home at the end of the season. It's called the H-2A program. And I truly believe, even though dairy farms isn't a seasonal job, right? They milk twice a day, 365 days a year.
Have to.
I understand that. And growing up in farm country, I certainly understand it. So I was pushing for farm workers to be involved in H-2A, even though it wasn't agriculture. I talked to a lot of people on the Hill. However, administration changed hands and it didn't get done. I still believe to this day that if there's a need for that type of employment on dairy farms, there should be a way for them to do that through a legal process. I was happy the other day. I saw President Trump talking about it during an interview in the Oval Office that they're looking at farm workers and how they can make sure their workers are legal through it, whether they need to go home and re-register or make some sort of visa available to them. But even President Trump's talking about it. I support that. I grew up in farm country, and I realize how important farmers are. And I think it's the right thing to do, and I think the President's already talking about it. So hopefully we'll come to some sort of decision where people that work on dairy farms can get a worker's visa to do that. Because when we do that, then people don't have to pay a criminal cartel to be smuggled in the United States. Women and children won't be sexually assaulted by members of the cartels as part of their feed across that border. Less women and children would die. Less children would die in the river. Less women would be sexually assaulted. Under Joe Biden, we had 4,000 aliens die across that border. If we can open up doors, bring people that we need the legal way, they don't have to hire criminal cartels. We're already putting them out of business right now with a decrease of 95%. They're upset. They were making record amounts of money smuggling women and children, sex trafficking women and children, smuggling aliens, moving drugs across that border. Now with it crossing down 95%, they're upset. We've taken billions of dollars out of their pockets. Why the tax on me, the threats on me, because we're having a significant impact on their bottom line. So let's completely take them out of business. So that's what we're doing.
So you're leaving here hoping that the community heals. Those are your words.
Yeah, I can leave this community and people can hate me all they want. But I want them to hate me based on the facts. All right? You can have an opinion on Tom Homan all you want. Again, I don't care what people think about me. I'm not running a popularity contest. I'm doing the best I can for this country. And I think that's what we're doing. The numbers prove it. And, what I want was for the community that I love to understand what happened and why it happened, not based on misinformation. I plan on retiring up here. I love the North Country. And I took time. Like I say, I don't get a day off today. It could have been a day off. I chose to fly up here to talk to you because the community's hurting. And I want to hear the facts. And again, they can judge whatever opinions they want, but hear the facts. And I wish more people would have reached out for the facts rather than going on social media saying things that simply weren't true. But hopefully when I leave, people understand what happened, why it was necessary.
How do people reach out to get those facts? Because they're not going to have a direct line to you.
You
Right?
reach out to WWNY TV, ask Jeff Cole, because that's what happened. Jeff Cole contacted me because obviously someone let you know. Or contact your local legislators. Scott Gray contacted me. But by the time I talked to Scott, that was already over. But Claudia Tenney reached out to me. Governor Hochul reached out to me a couple of days later. So, you know, don't judge until you know. Right? Don't judge until you know. Because the first reports, you were arrested out of school. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Anyways, hopefully after today, people have the facts. Again, judge how you want, have any opinion you want. Tom Homan's going to keep doing his job. Tom Homan isn't going away. Tom Homan has a job to do. And we're already, you know, this administration is already doing a great job, and we're going to finish the job. Hopefully I can retire for the third time and actually live up here, but we'll see.
Tom Homan, U.S. Border Czar, thanks for the conversation.
Yeah, thank you.